Hi everyone. Great to have you here at DxD Tales. Get comfortable because today we're presenting what if Issei got the Shadow Monarch system and became Dragon Emperor of Shadows. Before we start, a gentle reminder, if you love stories like this, please like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm show our videos to more people. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Chapter 1, Shadows of the Dragon. I shot up in bed, gasping for air. Sweat drenched my sheets again. Third time this week. The nightmares were getting worse. Shadows crawling up my arms, whispering things I couldn't understand, and somewhere in the darkness, a pair of golden eyes watching me. Just a dream, I muttered, rubbing my face. Just another weird dream. My phone lit up. 3:17 a.m. Great. I had school in a few hours, devil duties after that, and now I'd be doing it all on 4 hours of sleep. Again. Might as well check if Drake had any insights. I focused inward, reaching for the presence of the Red Dragon Emperor sealed in my sacred gear. Partner, Drake's voice rumbled through my mind, these dreams trouble me. Something is reaching for you. Reaching for me? Like what? Another sacred gear user? Fallen angels again? No. This is different. Older, perhaps. I sense something ancient stirring when you sleep. I flopped back on my pillow. That's super helpful, Drake. Ancient and stirring. Got any actual advice? Be vigilant, he replied, which was dragon speak for, I have no freaking clue. I sighed and stared at my ceiling until morning came. Issei-kun, you look terrible, Asia said at breakfast, her green eyes filled with concern. Just tired, I said, shoveling rice into my mouth. Nothing to worry about. Rias looked up from her coffee. More nightmares? I nodded. Since becoming part of Rias's peerage, we'd all moved into the Hayadu residence, magically expanded, of course. Having a powerful devil as a landlord had its perks. Perhaps we should have Azazel examine you, Rias suggested, tapping her finger against her cup. These persistent nightmares could be significant. I'm fine, I insisted. Probably just stressed about the upcoming raiding game against Riser. Aquino smiled from across the table. Era, is our little Kohai afraid of the big bad phoenix? I'm not afraid. I'm gonna kick his ass. I stood up too quickly and nearly knocked over my chair. Everyone stared at me. Sorry. Tired, remember? Asia placed her hand on my arm. Please don't push yourself too hard, Issei-kun. I forced a smile. Don't worry. Everything's fine. It wasn't fine. The shadows in my dreams were starting to show up when I was awake too, flickering at the edges of my vision, gone when I turned to look. School dragged by. I kept nodding off in class, burning a chalk eraser to the head from my math teacher. Hayadu. If my lessons are interfering with your beauty sleep, perhaps you'd prefer detention. The class laughed. I mumbled an apology and tried to focus on quadratic equations instead of the shadow that seemed to be pooling under my desk. When the bell rang, Matsuda and Motohama cornered me. Dude, you look like hell, Matsuda said, adjusting his glasses. Motohama nodded. Yeah, and not in a cool way. In a, might drop dead any second, way. Thanks for the vote of confidence, I muttered. Just haven't been sleeping well. Oh, Matsuda wiggled his eyebrows. Too busy with all those ladies at your house, eh? I rolled my eyes. It's not like that. Sure, Motohama said, clearly not believing me. Whatever you say, Harem King. If only they knew the truth. Yes, I lived with beautiful women, but I also had a dragon in my left arm, fought supernatural battles, and was having increasingly disturbing nightmares about shadows with teeth. Just another day in the life of Issei Hayadu. That evening, I was on contract duty. Nothing major, just helping some businessman organize his trading card collection. Easy money. Thanks for your help, Devil-san, the client said, handing me the payment. I've been meaning to sort these for months. No problem, I replied, pocketing the cash. Call anytime. I stepped outside into the cool night air and stretched. One contract down, 2 to go. I pulled out the next address from my pocket and squinted at it in the streetlight. Something felt off. The street was too quiet, too empty. Partner, be careful, Drake warned. I activated my sacred gear. The familiar red gauntlet materialized on my left arm, glowing softly in the darkness. Who's there? I called out. A chuckle echoed from the shadows of an alley. My. What a tasty little devil we have here. 3 figures emerged. White hair, red eyes, dressed in clerical robes with light swords drawn. Stray exorcists. Shit, I muttered, backing up slowly. The Red Dragon Emperor, one of them said, licking his lips. Fried will be so disappointed he missed this. I raised my gauntlet. You guys really want to do this? I'm not exactly a pushover. They laughed, spreading out to surround me. 3-on-1 seems fair, the leader sneered. For us, that is. I didn't wait for them to attack. Boost. Boost. Drake's voice confirmed as power surged through me. I charged the nearest exorcist, ducking under his light sword and driving my fist into his stomach. He flew back but recovered quickly, grinning madly. The dragon has some bite, he cackled. The other 2 rushed me from opposite sides. I jumped, higher than a human could, but one of their blades caught my leg. I hissed as the light energy burned through my pants and into my flesh. Boost. Another surge of power. I landed and spun, firing a small dragon shot at the ground between 2 exorcists. The explosion threw them off balance. I took advantage, landing a solid kick to one's chest. The leader appeared behind me, faster than I expected. His light sword plunged toward my back. I twisted, but not enough. The blade pierced my shoulder, and white-hot agony exploded through me. Light energy was poison to devils. I screamed and fell to one knee. Not so tough now, are we? He taunted, pressing the advantage. Partner. Another boost. Boost. I gasped. Boost. The power came, but something felt different this time. The shadows at the edges of my vision grew darker, more substantial. The exorcists closed in for the kill. Any last words, devil scum? The leader asked, raising his sword for a finishing blow. The world seemed to slow down. The pain in my shoulder faded to a dull throb. The shadows around me writhed and pulsed like living things. A voice, not Drake's, whispered in my mind. Do you wish to live? Yes, I gasped without hesitation. Would you accept my power? Who are you? I am what comes after death. I am the Shadow Monarch. The exorcist's blade began its downward arc toward my head. Yes. I accept. The world exploded into darkness. Shadows erupted from my body, engulfing the alley in pitch blackness. The exorcist's screams cut off abruptly. I felt a strange sensation, like my soul was being stretched. Something new entered me, filling spaces I didn't know existed. Knowledge and power poured into my mind. When my vision cleared, the exorcists were on the ground, twitching. Black tendrils of shadow extended from my body, piercing their chests. Energy flowed from them into me, healing my wounds. Extraction complete, the new voice announced. The shadows receded, slithering back into my body like obedient pets. The exorcists lay motionless, their skin ashen gray. What did I just do? I whispered, staring at my hands. They looked normal, but I could feel the shadows shifting beneath my skin. You have begun the process of becoming the Shadow Monarch, the voice explained. Those who fall by your hand can be claimed as your soldiers. Soldiers. I looked at the exorcists' bodies. As I watched, they dissolved into black particles that flowed toward me, sinking into my shadow. Arise, I commanded without knowing why. 3 shadows rose from the ground, taking humanoid forms. The exorcists, or what remained of them, stood before me with glowing blue eyes, awaiting orders. Holy shit, I breathed. Partner. Drake's voice cut through my shock. What have you done? I don't know, I replied honestly. But I think things just got a lot more complicated. Getting back to the occult research club was a blur. I dismissed the shadow soldiers, watching them melt back into my own shadow, and then flew on devil wings through the night. My mind raced. What was the Shadow Monarch? Why had it chosen me? How was this going to affect my position in Rias's peerage? I landed outside the old school building and took a deep breath. No hiding this. Better to come clean right away. The moment I opened the door, Rias rushed toward me. Issei. Where have you been? I felt your power spike dramatically, and then, something else. She stopped short, her eyes widening. Your aura, it's different. The whole club was there, Akino, Kiba, Kaneko, and Asia. They all stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Something happened, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I was attacked by exorcists and nearly died, but then I got offered a new power. New power? Rias repeated cautiously. I nodded. Something called the Shadow Monarch system. It let me control shadows and turn the exorcists into my soldiers after they died. Silence fell over the room. Akino was the first to recover. Era, our Issei-kun is full of surprises. Rias stepped forward and placed her hand on my chest. I felt her devil power probing gently, examining me. This energy. She murmured. It's not devil power, nor dragon. It's death magic, but different from any I've encountered. Kaneko wrinkled her nose. Smells wrong. Like old graves. Thanks for that assessment, I said dryly. Asia approached cautiously. Are you hurt, Issei-kun? I was. Light soared through the shoulder. But the shadow power healed me somehow. Kiba circled me, his knight's instincts on high alert. Can you demonstrate this power? I hesitated. I'm not sure how to control it yet. I can guide you, the new voice offered. Who was that? Rias demanded, stepping back. You heard him? I asked, surprised. We all did, Akino confirmed. A most unusual voice. I am Ashborn, the previous Shadow Monarch, the voice introduced itself. I have chosen this one as my successor. Rias crossed her arms. Without consulting his master first. I am Rias Gremory, heir to the house of Gremory. Issei is my servant, my pawn. The affairs of devils mean little to me, Ashborn replied dismissively. The Shadow Monarch stands above such hierarchies. Okay, let's all calm down, I interrupted, seeing Rias's eyes flash dangerously. Ashborn, I'm still part of Rias's peerage, and that's not changing. Bucho, I didn't exactly plan for this to happen, but maybe it can help us against Riser. Rias's expression softened slightly. You're right. Any advantage against Riser is welcome. She sat down on her desk. Show us what you can do. I nodded and tried to focus on the shadows I'd felt earlier. They responded instantly, erupting from beneath my feet and swirling around me like a dark cloak. Whoa! Kiba jumped back, hand instinctively reaching for a sword. Kaneko shifted into a fighting stance. Asia gasped and clutched her cross. It's okay, I assured them, though I was just as startled by how easily the shadows responded. I think I can control it. I concentrated, and the shadows extended, forming shapes, spears, blades, shields. The shadows are extensions of your will, Ashbourne explained. They can be weapons, armor, or vessels for your soldiers. Soldiers? Rias asked sharply. I grimaced. That's the part that might freak you out. Apparently, I can turn people I defeat into shadow soldiers. To demonstrate, I focused on summoning the 3 exorcists. They rose from my shadow, ethereal blue eyes glowing in their black forms. Asia squeaked in fear. Kiba drew his sword. Aquino's hands crackled with lightning. Stand down, I ordered quickly, and the shadows immediately returned to a passive state. Necromancy? Rias whispered, looking troubled. Not precisely, Ashbourne corrected. The Shadow Monarch extracts and preserves the strength and skills of the fallen. Their consciousness remains, but their will belongs to the Monarch. That's disturbing, Kiba said bluntly. Yeah, I admitted. I'm not thrilled about it either, but they were trying to kill me. Rias studied the shadow soldiers with a calculating expression. How many can you control? I don't know yet. His capacity will grow as he develops, Ashbourne said. Eventually, armies. Aquino laughed softly. My, our Issei-kun is becoming quite formidable. Asia stepped forward hesitantly and touched my arm. Does it hurt? I shook my head. No. It actually feels kind of natural, which is the weird part. Rias nodded thoughtfully. We need to understand this power better. But first, she pulled me into a tight hug. I'm glad you're safe. I relaxed into her embrace, inhaling her familiar scent. For a moment, everything felt normal again. Then Draig's voice rumbled through the room. This shadow power is dangerous, Rias Gremory. It conflicts with my own energy. I was wondering when you'd join the conversation, Rias said, releasing me. What do you mean, it conflicts? Dragons and shadows have never mixed well, Draig explained. Their energy signatures are fundamentally opposed. Having both in one vessel is unprecedented. Great. Just what I needed, internal conflict between my powers. Is it hurting Issei? Asia asked worriedly. Not yet, Draig admitted. But as both powers grow stronger, they will vie for dominance. The dragon exaggerates, Ashbourne countered. The shadows can accommodate the dragon's power. There may even be synergies to discover. Rias looked me in the eyes. How do you feel, Issei? Truly. I considered the question. Stronger. Different. Like I've tapped into something huge that I don't understand yet. I flexed my left hand, watching as both the boosted gear and shadows swirled around it. But also like I'm being pulled in 2 directions. Then we'll help you find balance, Rias declared. This new power doesn't change who you are or your place with us. I felt a wave of relief. Thank you, Bucho. Aquino clapped her hands. Well, this certainly makes our upcoming raiding game more interesting. Learning to control shadow powers while also developing my sacred gear turned out to be even harder than I expected. The following week was brutal. Every morning, I trained with Kiba and Kaneko to improve my physical abilities. Afternoons were spent with Aquino and Rias, working on magical control. Evenings, I practiced with both boosted gear and shadows until I collapsed from exhaustion. The nightmares stopped, at least. Apparently, they'd been Ashbourne trying to contact me. Focus, Issei. Rias called as I attempted to manifest shadow armor while maintaining a dragon shot. The energies warred within me. Red dragon power flared in my left arm while shadows writhed across my body. I felt like I was being torn apart from the inside. Boost! I shouted, trying to power through it. Boost! The dragon energy surged, and my shadow armor immediately destabilized, dissolving into wisps. Damn it! I fell to one knee, gasping. The dragon power disrupts shadow control, Ashbourne observed. And the shadows dampen my power transfer, Drake added. You two are seriously not helping, I muttered. Rias approached, offering a water bottle. Maybe we're approaching this wrong. Instead of trying to use both powers simultaneously, perhaps they should be used in sequence. I gulped down the water. What do you mean? Boost first to store power, then switch to shadow manipulation. Or use shadows for positioning, then boost for the attack. I hadn't considered that. Worth a try. I stood up, focusing on Drake first. Boost. Boost. Once the power was stored, I switched focus to the shadows, extending them out as whip-like tendrils that lashed at training dummies. It worked. The shadows didn't dissolve, though I could feel the dragon energy churning uncomfortably within me. Good. Rias clapped. Now try the reverse. I pulled the shadows back and formed them into a platform beneath my feet, raising myself 10 feet off the ground. From this vantage point, I activated boosted gear again. Dragon shot. The red energy blast shot from my hand, obliterating a training dummy. The shadow platform held, though it wavered slightly under the pressure. That's it. Rias beamed. You're getting it, Issei. I grinned, feeling a surge of accomplishment. Maybe I could make this work after all. 2 days before the raiding game with Riser, we had an unexpected visitor. I was practicing shadow manipulation in the forest behind school when I sensed someone watching me. I spun around, shadows instinctively forming into spears around me. Impressive, Azazel said, stepping out from behind a tree. When Rias called and said you'd acquired shadow powers, I had to see for myself. I relaxed slightly. Governor Azazel. Didn't expect you. The fallen angel leader approached, studying me with keen interest. The Shadow Monarch system. I haven't heard that name in millennia. That caught my attention. You know about it? Bits and pieces. It's older than most supernatural powers, older than the sacred gear system itself. He circled me, examining the shadows that still swirled protectively around me. May I? I nodded, and he touched one of the shadow tendrils. It recoiled initially, then cautiously wrapped around his finger. Fascinating, he murmured. These aren't just manipulated darkness. They're quasi-sentient. The governor is well informed, Ashbourne commented. Azazel's eyebrows shot up. And the previous monarch remains as a guide. Even more interesting. What can you tell me about this power? I asked. Ashbourne hasn't been very forthcoming with details. Some knowledge must be earned, not given, Ashbourne said cryptically. Azazel chuckled. Typical immortal entity, speaking in riddles. He sat on a fallen log and gestured for me to join him. The Shadow Monarch was once the ruler of a realm between life and death, not quite the underworld, not quite the living world. A place where the dead could be marshaled as an army. So it is necromancy, I said grimly. Yes and no. True necromancy reanimates empty shells. The Shadow Monarch system preserves the essence of the fallen, their skills, memories, and a portion of their consciousness. They serve willingly, in a sense. That didn't make me feel much better. And why me? Why would this power choose someone who already has a sacred gear? Azazel's expression turned serious. That's what concerns me most. The Shadow Monarch system shouldn't be compatible with dragon energy. Historically, they've been opposing forces. The Red Dragon Emperor vessel was dying, Ashbourne explained. His soul stood at the boundary between realms. It was the perfect opportunity. Perfect opportunity for what? I pressed. Silence. Azazel sighed. Entities like Ashbourne always have agendas, Issei. Be careful. Great, I muttered. As if Drake and the boosted gear weren't complicated enough. Speaking of which, how is the old WIRM handling this arrangement? With extreme caution, Drake rumbled. The shadow power grows stronger each day. As does the dragon power, I pointed out. I can manage more boosts than before. Azazel looked intrigued. Really? Show me. I stood and activated boosted gear. Boost. Boost. I kept going, pushing past my previous limit of 8 boosts. Boost. 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 At the 12th boost, I finally felt my body reaching its limit. That's new, I gasped, the power thrumming through me almost painfully. Remarkable, Azazel murmured. It seems the shadow energy is somehow reinforcing your body's ability to channel dragon power. Impossible, Drake protested. Not impossible, Ashbourne countered. Merely unexpected. I released the stored power in a massive dragon shot that carved a trench through the forest floor. Oops, I said, looking at the destruction. Azazel laughed. Don't worry about it. More importantly, this suggests your 2 power systems might be developing a symbiosis rather than remaining antagonistic. Is that good or bad? Potentially revolutionary, Azazel said, eyes gleaming with excitement. You could develop into something entirely new, neither pure Dragon Emperor nor pure Shadow Monarch, but a hybrid entity with capabilities beyond either. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. How does this affect my rating game against Riser? Azazel grinned wickedly. Oh, I think you're going to give that arrogant phoenix a very unpleasant surprise. The day of the rating game arrived. Tension filled the occult research club as we prepared for battle. Remember the strategy, Ria said, addressing all of us. Kaneko and Kiba will clear the path. Akino provides aerial support. Asia stays with me for healing. And Issei. She turned to me. You're our trump card against Riser himself. I nodded, trying to project confidence I didn't entirely feel. We'd developed some tactics using my new abilities, but they remained unpredictable. Nervous, partner? Drake asked. A little, I admitted internally. The phoenix regenerates from most injuries, Ashbourne observed. But shadow extraction targets the soul, not merely the flesh. That was our ace in the hole. If Riser couldn't be defeated by conventional means, perhaps the shadow powers could bypass his regeneration. Graphia appeared in a magic circle. It is time. The battlefield has been prepared, a replica of Ko Academy. Are you ready, Lady Rias? Rias straightened her shoulders. We are. Light enveloped us as the transportation circle activated. When it faded, we stood in front of a perfect copy of our school. Let the rating game between the House of Gremory and the House of Phoenix begin. Graphia's voice announced. Rias immediately took command. Positions, everyone. Stick to the plan. Kiba and Kaneko moved toward the school building. Akino took to the skies. Asia stayed close to Rias as they established a base in the Occult Research Club replica. I had a different assignment. Using shadows for concealment, I was to infiltrate enemy territory and cause chaos before the main confrontation. I sank into my own shadow, a technique I'd barely mastered the day before. It felt weird, like swimming through cold molasses. But it worked. I moved beneath the ground, undetectable to normal senses. 3 enemies approaching from the east, Ashbourne informed me. I extended my awareness through the shadows and found them, 3 of Riser's pawns patrolling the gym area. Perfect targets to test my abilities. I emerged from the shadows behind them, startling the trio. What the? One began before I launched into action. Boost. Boost. Dragon energy surged through me as I engaged the first pawn. She was quick, dodging my initial punch and countering with a kick. I blocked with a shadow shield that erupted from my arm. He can use shadows, she shouted to her companions. Doesn't matter, another replied, hands glowing with fire. Lord Riser said the pawn was weak. I grinned. Outdated intelligence. I boosted twice more, then switched to shadow manipulation. Black spears shot from the ground, forcing the pawns to jump back. I used their momentary distraction to close distance with the nearest one. Dragon shot. The concentrated energy blast hit her squarely in the chest, sending her flying into the gym wall. She slumped, defeated. Mira has been retired, Graphia's voice announced. 1 down, 2 to go. The remaining pawns attacked simultaneously, one with fire, one with a staff. I dodged the flames and parried the staff with a shadow tendril. Boost. Boost. More power surged. I was getting better at switching between dragon and shadow abilities. When the staff wielder lunged again, I caught her weapon with shadows and yanked it from her hands. What kind of pawn are you? She demanded, backing away. The worst kind to face, I replied, shadows swirling around me. The evolving kind. I unleashed a barrage of shadow spikes that drove both pawns back, then followed with a dragon shot that caught one directly. Al has been retired. The last pawn looked terrified now. This isn't what Lord Riser prepared us for. Sorry to disappoint, I said, advancing steadily. She turned to flee. I didn't give her the chance. Shadows shot from the ground, wrapping around her legs and holding her in place. Let me go, she struggled futilely. Not happening. I approached and fired a final dragon shot at point-blank range. Nell has been retired. 3 down, 13 to go. Not bad for my first engagement. My earpiece crackled. Issei, report, Rias requested. 3 pawns down at the gym, I replied. No sign of Riser yet. Good work. Kiba and Kaneko have engaged their rook and knight near the main building. Aquino is handling their queen. Continue as planned. Roger that. I sank back into the shadows, moving toward the Phoenix territory. According to our intelligence, Riser would be at the replica of the student council room. As I traveled, I monitored the battle through announcements. 1 knight of Lady Rias has been retired. Kiba was down. Not good. 1 rook of Lord Riser has been retired. Better. Kaneko had scored a victory. I emerged in an empty classroom to get my bearings. The sounds of battle echoed across the campus. Through the window, I could see lightning flashing in the distance, Aquino fighting Riser's queen. Multiple enemies approaching, Ashbourne warned. I spun around as the classroom door burst open. 4 of Riser's pieces, a rook, a knight, and 2 pawns, filed in, surrounding me. Found you, Red Dragon Emperor, the rook said, cracking her knuckles. Lord Riser wants you eliminated first. I assessed the situation quickly. 4-on-1, confined space. Not ideal. I'm flattered by the attention, I said, stalling while I formulated a plan. Don't be, the knight replied, drawing her sword. You're just the biggest nuisance. I laughed. Oh, you have no idea. I activated boosted gear. Boost. Boost. The enemies tensed, ready for an attack. Instead, I slammed my fist into the floor. Dragon Shadow Eruption. A technique we developed during training. Dragon energy charged into the shadows, causing them to explode outward in all directions. The room filled with writhing darkness shot through with crimson energy. The phoenix pieces cried out in surprise as shadow tendrils wrapped around them, burning with dragon fire. What is this? The knight shouted, slashing at the shadows with her sword. Something new, I replied, directing the shadows to tighten their grip. The rook broke free with brute strength and charged me. I sidestepped and clotheslined her with a shadow-enhanced arm. She crashed through a desk but quickly recovered. You've gotten stronger, pawn, she acknowledged. But not strong enough. She was right, I couldn't take all 4 at once in direct combat. Time for Plan B. I sank partially into my shadow, using it to glide across the floor at incredible speed. I passed beneath the knight, shadow spikes erupting upward to pierce her legs. Ah, she cried out, dropping to one knee. I emerged behind the pawns, dragon energy gathered in both hands. Double dragon shot. The twin blasts caught both pawns, sending them crashing through the classroom windows. 2 pawns of Lord Riser have been retired. 2 down, 2 to go. The knight struggled to her feet, blood dripping from where the shadow spikes had impaled her legs. "You'll pay for that," she snarled, limping toward me. The rook attacked from the side, forcing me to defend with a shadow shield. The impact still sent me sliding across the room. Boost. Boost. More power, but I needed to be smart about this. The confined space limited my mobility but also limited theirs. I needed to separate them. I dropped fully into my shadow, disappearing from view. "Where did he go?" the rook demanded. I moved through the shadows to the far side of the room, then emerged just long enough to taunt them. "Too slow," I called before disappearing again. The knight slashed at where I'd been. "Stop hiding." I emerged again near the door. "Who's hiding? I'm just being efficient." The rook charged, as I'd hoped. I waited until the last second, then sank into the floor. She barreled past me and into the hallway. Perfect. I rose from the shadows and slammed the classroom door shut, separating the rook from the knight. "Now it's one-on-one," I told the surprised knight. She raised her sword. "Fine by me." I charged, boosted twice more, and engaged. Her swordsmanship was excellent, but her injured legs slowed her down. I avoided her slashes while shadows swirled around us, occasionally striking at her blind spots. After a fierce exchange, I saw my opening. As she committed to a powerful downward slash, I sidestepped and trapped her sword arm with shadows. Dragon shot. The point-blank blast sent her flying into the blackboard. She slid down, defeated. 1 knight of Lord Riser has been retired. No time to celebrate. The rook was pounding on the door, which wouldn't hold much longer. I gathered my strength and prepared for round 2. The door exploded inward, revealing the furious rook. "No more games," she growled. "Agreed," I replied, shadow and dragon power swirling around me in a visible aura. We clashed in the center of the room. Her physical strength exceeded mine, even with boosts, but the shadows gave me versatility. For every punch she landed, I countered with shadow spikes and dragon-enhanced strikes. The battle destroyed what remained of the classroom. Desks shattered, walls cracked, and the ceiling began to cave in as our powers collided. I took some heavy hits, including a punch that definitely cracked ribs. But I gave as good as I got, wearing her down with constant shadow attacks that sliced at her from unpredictable angles. Finally, I saw my chance. She telegraphed a powerful right hook. Instead of dodging, I took the hit directly, letting it launch me across the room. As I flew backward, I fired shadow tendrils that anchored to the ceiling. Dragon Shadow Lance. I used the tendrils to slingshot myself forward at incredible speed, my fist wrapped in shadows and charged with dragon energy. The combined attack hit the rook square in the chest. She gasped as both energies tore through her defenses. For a moment, she stood frozen, then collapsed. 1 rook of Lord Riser has been retired. I leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. 4 more opponents defeated, but I was starting to feel the strain. My earpiece crackled again. "Issei, status?" 4 more down, I reported between breaths. 1 rook and a knight, plus 2 pawns. "Good work," Ria sounded relieved. "But we've lost Kaneko, and Akino is still engaged with their queen. What's the plan now?" "Head to the student council room. Riser is there with his remaining pieces. I'll meet you with Asia." "Understood." I took a moment to recover, then sank back into the shadows. The final confrontation was approaching. I emerged from the shadows in a hallway near the student council room. Voices drifted through the partially open door. Your queen is losing ground, Riser, I heard Rhea say. And your army has been decimated. Surrender now. Riser's laughter followed. Surrender? When I still have my regeneration. Your little group has fought well, I'll admit, but you cannot defeat a phoenix. I peeked through the gap. Rhea stood proudly, facing Riser. Asia was behind her, looking nervous but determined. Riser had his remaining pieces, his queen, who looked battle-worn, his sister Ravel, and 2 pawns. Time to even the odds. I kicked the door open. Mind if I join the party? All heads turned toward me. Riser's eyes widened slightly. The pawn survives, he said. And with new tricks, I hear. You have no idea, I replied, letting shadows swirl visibly around me. Rhea smiled confidently. As you can see, my pawn has grown significantly since your last encounter. Riser snorted. Shadow manipulation. Interesting, but ultimately futile. I am immortal, child. I stepped forward. We'll see about that. Riser nodded to his remaining pieces. Deal with him. The 2 pawns rushed me immediately. I didn't bother with finesse this time. Boost. 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 Power surged through me as shadows erupted from the floor, impaling both pawns before they could reach me. 2 pawns of Lord Riser have been retired. Riser's confident expression faltered slightly. Impressive speed. His queen moved to engage, but Aquino chose that moment to crash through the window, lightning crackling around her. Sorry I'm late, she said, though her uniform was torn and her energy clearly depleted. This one is stubborn. Yubaluna, finish her, Riser commanded. The queen turned back to Aquino, and they resumed their aerial battle, crashing through another window and taking their fight outside. That left Riser and his sister facing the 3 of us. Issei, Rhea said quietly, are you ready? I nodded. We discussed this scenario, I would engage Riser directly while Rhea's handled Ravel. Asia would provide healing support as needed. Let's do this, I said, activating boosted gear again. Riser smirked and ignited his phoenix fire. Come then, boy. Show me what the Red Dragon Emperor can do. Oh, I'll show you more than that, I promised. We clashed in the center of the room. His fire met my shadows and dragon energy in an explosive collision that shook the building. Behind us, Rheas engaged Ravel in a battle of magic circles and power of destruction. Riser was strong, stronger than anyone I'd faced before. His fire burned away my shadow tendrils, and his regeneration made conventional attacks useless. Every time I landed a solid hit, his wounds healed almost instantly. You see, he taunted after recovering from a dragon-enhanced punch that would have felled anyone else. This is the difference between us. You can hurt me, but you cannot defeat me. I gritted my teeth and pressed the attack. More boosts. More shadows. More dragon power. But nothing seemed to create lasting damage. After a particularly vicious exchange, I was thrown across the room, crashing into a bookshelf. Pain lanced through my body as I struggled to stand. Issei! Asia cried, running to my side. Her sacred gear activated, the warm healing light soothing my injuries. Thanks, I muttered, my eyes never leaving Riser. The phoenix stood confidently, not a scratch on him despite our battle. Behind him, I could see Rhea struggling against Ravel, who was proving surprisingly resilient. We needed something new. Something Riser couldn't regenerate from. The extraction, Ashbourne reminded me. It targets the soul, not the body. Worth a try. But I'd need to get close, really close. Asia, I whispered, tell Bucho to hit Riser with everything she's got when I give the signal. She nodded and hurried to Rheas while I faced Riser again. Ready for round 2? I asked, shadows gathering densely around me. Your persistence is admirable, Riser said, but foolish. I charged, but differently this time. Instead of attacking with dragon energy first, I led with shadows. They surged forward, forming a massive wave that crashed toward Riser. As expected, he countered with intense flames that burned through the shadow wave. But that was the point, the shadows were a distraction. I boosted 8 times in rapid succession, pushing my body to its limit. Dragon Shadow Armor. Shadow energy condensed around me, forming armor that drew power from both boosted gear and the Shadow Monarch system. It was a technique we'd barely tested, risky, but potentially devastating. Riser's eyes widened as I burst through his flames, moving faster than before, the combined energies protecting me from his fire. What is this? He demanded as I closed the distance. Something new, I replied, driving my fist into his chest. He staggered back but quickly recovered, flames healing the damage. Still not enough. Wasn't trying to hurt you, I grinned. Just needed to touch you. Before he could process my words, shadow tendrils erupted from my armor and plunged into his body, not attacking his flesh, but something deeper. What are you doing? Riser gasped, his regeneration suddenly faltering. Extraction in progress, Ashbourne announced. Now, Bucho. I shouted. Rias immediately disengaged from Ravel and fired her power of destruction directly at Riser. The crimson-black energy engulfed him as I maintained the shadow connection. Riser screamed, not in pain, but in shock. Impossible. I am immortal. Maybe to conventional attacks, I said, tightening the shadow grip on his essence. But this targets your soul, Phoenix. Even immortals have those. For the first time, genuine fear flashed across Riser's face. His regeneration slowed dramatically as the shadows continued their extraction, weakening the connection between his spirit and his immortal flesh. Rias pressed the advantage, pouring more power of destruction into her assault. Ravel tried to intervene, but Asia surprised everyone by creating a barrier of light that temporarily blocked the Phoenix Girl. You cannot. Riser struggled, his flames weakening. I felt the shadow extraction working, pulling at something fundamental within Riser. Not his life, I wasn't trying to kill him, but the very source of his power. Yield, I demanded. It's over, Riser. Pride warred with fear in his eyes. I increased the pressure, shadow tendrils digging deeper into his spiritual essence. Finally, he slumped to his knees. I yield. Lord Riser has surrendered. Victory goes to Lady Rias Gremory. I released the shadow extraction immediately, staggering back as fatigue hit me all at once. The combined strain of multiple boosts and advanced shadow manipulation left me exhausted. Rias rushed to my side, catching me before I collapsed. You did it, Issei, she whispered, eyes shining. You actually did it. I managed a tired smile. We did it, Bucho. All of us. Riser remained on his knees, looking shell-shocked. Ravel hurried to her brother's side, concern etched on her face. What did you do to him? She demanded. Nothing permanent, I assured her, though I wasn't entirely sure. The extraction had been new territory for me too. He'll recover. Grafia appeared in a transportation circle. Congratulations, Lady Rias. Your victory has been acknowledged by both houses. The engagement is formally dissolved. Relief washed over Rias's face. Thank you, Grafia. As a transportation circle formed beneath us to return us to the real world, I caught Riser watching me with a mixture of fear and grudging respect. The next time we meet, Hayadu Issei, he said quietly, I'll be prepared for your shadows. I nodded. Looking forward to it. News of our victory, and my new abilities, spread quickly through the supernatural world. In the days that followed, I could feel the shift in how others perceived me. No longer just the lecherous wielder of boosted gear, but something potentially more dangerous. We gathered at the Occult Research Club a week after the raiding game. Rias had called a meeting to discuss recent developments. The dissolution of my engagement to Riser has been finalized, she announced. My brother sends his congratulations to all of you, especially you, Issei. I rubbed the back of my head, embarrassed. I just did what any pawn would do for their king. Most pawns don't acquire ancient shadow powers and defeat immortal phoenixes, Aquino teased. Kiba nodded. Your growth has been remarkable, Issei-kun. Speaking of which, Rias continued, we need to discuss these shadow powers more thoroughly. Azazel has been researching them and has some concerns. My stomach tightened. What kind of concerns? Nothing immediate, Rias assured me. But there are historical records suggesting the Shadow Monarch system has side effects on its wielders. Side effects? I repeated. Like what? The shadows change their master, as all great power does, Ashbourne said, his voice echoing through the room. It is the nature of the system. That's not very specific, I pointed out. Kaneko, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. You smell different, Issei-senpai. Less human. More, other. That was unsettling. I feel like myself, I insisted. Asia touched my hand gently. You are yourself, Issei-kun. But you're also growing into something new. The dragon agrees, Drea grumbled. There are changes occurring at a fundamental level. The interaction between dragon energy and shadow essence is creating something unprecedented. Great. Even my own powers didn't know what I was becoming. Rias sat beside me, her expression serious but supportive. Whatever happens, Issei, we face it together. You're not alone in this. I looked around at my friends, my family, really. Rias with her unwavering leadership. Aquino's supportive smile. Kiba's steadfast reliability. Kaneko's quiet strength. Asia's gentle compassion. No matter what I was becoming, I had them to keep me grounded. Thanks, everyone, I said sincerely. I don't know exactly what's happening with these powers, but I promise to use them to protect all of you. Rias leaned against my shoulder. And we'll protect you too. That's what family does. As if on cue, my shadow rippled slightly, and 3 tiny shadow soldiers emerged, miniature versions of the exorcists I had defeated. They stood at attention, awaiting orders. Everyone stared. I didn't summon them, I said, confused. The shadows respond to your emotions, Ashbourne explained. Your desire to protect has called forth guardians. The little shadow soldiers marched in formation around our group, like sentries on patrol. Despite their slightly creepy appearance, there was something almost cute about them. Asia giggled as one shadow soldier attempted to climb her shoe. They're like little shadow puppies. Great, I sighed. Now I have shadow pets I didn't ask for. Everyone laughed, and the tension broke. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever I was becoming, we would face it together. As the evening wound down and we prepared to head home, Rias pulled me aside. There's something else, she said quietly. Something Azazel mentioned that I haven't shared with the others yet. My heart sank. More bad news? Not necessarily. He believes there may be others who sought the Shadow Monarch system over the centuries. If so, they might have answers about what you're experiencing. Others like me? Where would we even find them? Rias shook her head. That's the problem. If they exist, they're well hidden. But Azazel is looking into some leads. I absorbed this information. Other shadow monarchs, or attempts at creating them, might be out there. The thought was both comforting and concerning. Let me know if he finds anything, I said. Rias nodded and squeezed my hand. As we walked home together, I felt the shadows shifting beneath my feet, responding to my emotions like a second heartbeat. Draig's presence hummed in my left arm, a constant reminder of the dragon power I also carried. Two ancient systems, neither designed to coexist, somehow functioning together within me. Creating something new, the Dragon Emperor of Shadows. Whatever I was becoming, I would make sure it served to protect those I cared about. That much, at least, I could control. Chapter 2, Rising Darkness. The Shadow Soldiers materialized without warning during math class. 1 second I was staring blankly at quadratic equations, the next 3 tiny shadow warriors were marching across my desk. What the? I hissed, slapping my hand over them. Too late. Matsuda, sitting next to me, had already noticed. Dude, what's with the weird black toys? He whispered. I scrambled for an explanation. Just some gag gifts from an online game. Virtual pets. Super boring. The shadow soldiers struggled under my palm, clearly unhappy about being squashed. I focused my will on them. Go away. Now. They dissolved reluctantly back into my shadow. Crisis averted, barely. This had been happening all week. Random shadow manifestations whenever my concentration slipped. Apparently, emotional control was a prerequisite for shadow powers that nobody bothered to mention. Your subconscious desires continue to manifest, Ashbourne commented dryly. Not helpful, I thought back. Partner, your control is slipping again, Drake warned. I glanced down to see darkness pooling around my feet. Great. I took a deep breath and reined in my frustration. The shadows retreated. Hayudu. Pay attention. The math teacher's chalk missile hit me square in the forehead. Perfect. Just perfect. Your control is improving, but not quickly enough, Ria said that afternoon as we trained behind the old school building. I had just failed, again, to maintain shadow armor while executing dragon attacks. The conflicting energies kept destabilizing each other. I'm trying, I gasped, hands on knees. They just don't want to play nice. Aquino handed me a water bottle. Perhaps you're overthinking it. Instead of forcing them to cooperate, try letting them interact naturally. What does that even mean? Stop treating them as separate systems, Azazel suggested, appearing from behind a tree. He'd been dropping by regularly to observe my training, fascinated by the unprecedented power combination. We all turned to the fallen angel leader. He strolled over, hands in pockets, looking casually intrigued as always. The dragon and shadow powers are fighting because you're trying to use them in parallel, he continued. Try merging them instead. Merging? I asked. Wouldn't they just cancel each other out? Or create something entirely new, Azazel said with a gleam in his eye. Think of it like cooking. Some ingredients taste terrible alone but create something delicious when combined properly. The fallen one may have a point, Ashbourne admitted. I remain skeptical, Drake countered. I stood up straight. Worth a shot. How do I do this? Azazel shrugged. No idea. You're the first case study. Super helpful, I muttered. Still, I closed my eyes and tried a different approach. Instead of boosting first, then manipulating shadows, I focused on the point where the energies met within me, the uncomfortable friction I normally tried to minimize. Boost, I said quietly. Boost. As the dragon power surged, I didn't contain it to my arm as usual. Instead, I let it flow toward the shadows that constantly lingered beneath my skin. The energies collided, creating that familiar discomfort. But this time, I didn't pull them apart. I pushed them together. Pain shot through me. My knees buckled. Issei. Asia cried out. Wait, Azazel held up a hand. Let him work through it. Gritting my teeth, I forced the conflicting energies to intermingle rather than fight. It felt like trying to mix oil and water, fundamentally opposed substances rejecting each other on a basic level. But I kept pushing. Then, something unexpected happened. Where the energies met, a new sensation formed, not pain, but a strange resonance. The dragon power's brightness seemed to intensify the shadows rather than dispel them, while the shadows gave the dragon energy new depth and substance. Dragon Shadow Fusion, I whispered, the words coming instinctively. My left arm transformed, not into the standard boosted gear, but something new. The red gauntlet remained, but now black veins of shadow energy pulsed through it. The green jewel had darkened to a deep emerald with a purple core. Fascinating, Azazel murmured, leaning in for a closer look. I flexed my fingers. The gauntlet felt lighter yet stronger, humming with combined power. How does it feel? Rias asked. Different, I said. Like both powers are amplifying each other instead of fighting. I pointed at a target dummy and fired. A beam of crimson energy wrapped in spiraling shadows shot forth, completely obliterating the target and carving a trench 10 meters into the forest beyond. Everyone stared in shocked silence. Oops. I offered weakly. Azazel broke into delighted laughter. No oops about it. This confirms my theory. You're not just housing two separate powers, you're creating a true hybrid energy. Unprecedented, Ashbourne commented, sounding genuinely impressed. The shadows enhance my power rather than diluting it, Drake admitted with surprise. I stared at my transformed arm. The fusion felt natural, like this was how it was meant to be all along. Why hadn't we tried this sooner? How long can you maintain this state? Rias asked. Good question. I took stock of my energy levels. Not sure. It doesn't feel particularly draining, but the fusion collapsed abruptly. My arm returned to normal as fatigue hit me like a truck. I staggered forward. That answers that, Azazel said as Kiba caught me before I face-planted. Short duration for now, but impressive potential. Let's take a break, Rias suggested. Asia, could you help Issei recover? As Asia's healing light washed over me, Azazel pulled Rias aside for a private conversation. From their serious expressions, I guessed it wasn't good news. You've taken an important step, successor, Ashbourne said. Few have ever attempted to merge shadow essence with another power system. Did any succeed? I asked mentally. None that I recall, he replied. But then, none possessed the boosted gear. Great. More uncharted territory. After recovery, Rias gathered everyone around. Her expression confirmed my suspicions, trouble was brewing. Azazel has brought concerning news, she began. Word of Issei's new abilities has spread through the supernatural world, creating interest. What kind of interest? Kiba asked. Azazel crossed his arms. The unwanted kind. Several factions are expressing concern about a devil possessing both dragon and shadow powers. Some are calling for observation, others for intervention. Intervention? I repeated. You mean they want to take my powers? Or take me out entirely? Both options have been discussed, Azazel admitted. The Shadow Monarch system is poorly understood but historically feared. Combined with the boosted gear's reputation for hosting dangerous individuals. That's ridiculous, Rias said firmly. Issei has done nothing to warrant such suspicion. Politics rarely concerns itself with fairness, Azazel replied. The three factions' leadership is meeting next week to discuss the situation. Surzex will advocate for you, but you should prepare for scrutiny. Great. Just what I needed. Supernatural politicians debating my right to exist. There's more, Azazel continued. My sources report increased fallen angel activity around Kuo. Kokabeel has been gathering followers. The name sent a chill through the room. Kokabeel, a war-hungry fallen angel leader who'd opposed the peace treaty between factions. What would Kokabeel want with me? I asked. Your new power represents a wild card in the balance of power, Azazel explained. He might see potential in either controlling you or eliminating you before you fully develop. Rias squared her shoulders. Then we'll increase security and accelerate training. No one threatens my household. I appreciated her confidence, but a knot formed in my stomach. My weird power combo was putting everyone at risk. Don't look so glum, Aquino nudged me. We were already on supernatural hit lists before you got shadow powers. That's not actually comforting, I replied. Rias ended the meeting with assigned patrol schedules and buddy systems. No one would go anywhere alone until we better understood the threats. As we headed home, Kiba fell into step beside me. You know, he said casually, when I first got my sword birth ability, I thought it was more trouble than it was worth. Really? I glanced at him. But you're so natural with it now. He nodded. That came with time and purpose. Powers don't define us, what we choose to do with them does. I considered his words. Thanks, Kiba. That actually helps. He smiled. Good. Because I need you at full confidence when we spar tomorrow. Those shadow powers won't save you from getting your ass handed to you. I grinned back. Big talk from someone who's about to meet my shadow army. For a moment, things felt normal again. I woke at midnight to find Drake and Ashbourne arguing in my mindscape. The fusion is dangerous and unpredictable, Drake insisted. It is necessary evolution, Ashbourne countered. The successor must transcend limitations. At what cost? The boy's humanity erodes with each shadow advancement. Humanity is merely one state of being. There are greater, hey. I interrupted mentally. Could you two argue somewhere that isn't literally inside my head? Both entities fell silent. Apologies, partner, Drake rumbled. The dragon fears change, Ashbourne said dismissively. The shadow ignores consequences, Drake shot back. Great. My power sources were bickering like divorced parents. Both of you, enough, I said firmly. I need sleep. Real sleep without nightmares or midnight debates. Reluctant silence followed. I rolled over, punched my pillow into a more comfortable shape, and tried to drift off. Just as sleep began to claim me, a soft knock came at my door. Issei-kun. Asia's voice whispered. Are you awake? I sat up. Yeah, come in. She entered tentatively, dressed in pale blue pajamas, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders. Even in the dim light, I could see she'd been crying. What's wrong? I asked, immediately concerned. She sat on the edge of my bed. I had a nightmare. About you. About me? She nodded, eyes downcast. You were surrounded by shadows, fighting something. But the shadows kept growing until I couldn't see you anymore. Just darkness where you used to be. A chill ran down my spine. Asia's dreams sometimes had an uncanny accuracy. It was just a nightmare, I said, trying to sound confident. Was it? She looked up, green eyes searching mine. Everyone's worried about you, Issei-kun. These powers are changing you. I wanted to deny it, but couldn't. The shadow power was changing me, my perceptions, my instincts, even my presence. Kaneko had mentioned several times that my aura felt increasingly other. I'm still me, I assured her, taking her hand. No matter what powers I develop or how they change, I'm still Issei. She squeezed my hand. Promise? Promise. She studied me for a moment, then nodded, seemingly satisfied. Can I stay here tonight? Just to sleep, I mean. It's just the nightmare. I scooted over to make room. Of course. As Asia settled beside me, I found myself wondering if her nightmare was just anxiety or something more prophetic. The Shadow Monarch system remained largely mysterious, its full effects on its wielder unknown. For now, though, I pushed those worries aside. Asia's rhythmic breathing soon told me she'd fallen asleep, finding comfort in my presence despite the very shadows she feared. I would prove her trust justified. Whatever these powers were making me, I wouldn't lose sight of what mattered. Training intensified over the next days. Mornings with Kiba and Kaneko for physical combat. Afternoons with Rias and Aquino for magical theory and control. Evenings with Azazel for power experimentation. The fusion technique improved gradually. I could now maintain Dragon Shadow Fusion for almost 5 minutes before exhaustion hit. The transformed boosted gear became more stable each time, the Shadow and Dragon energies integrating more smoothly. Again, Azazel instructed after I collapsed from my 12th attempt of the day. I glared up at him from the ground. Easy for you to say. You're not the one feeling like your atoms are being rearranged. Pain is growth, he replied cheerfully. Besides, you've already doubled your endurance since yesterday. He wasn't wrong. Progress was happening, just not as quickly as the looming threats demanded. I pushed myself up and prepared for another attempt when a magic circle appeared nearby. Surzex Lucifer, Rias's older brother and one of the 4 great Satans, stepped through. Everyone immediately straightened. Rias approached her brother with surprise. Onia-sama. We weren't expecting you. Surzex smiled warmly. Forgive the unannounced visit. Events are developing rapidly, and I wanted to see Issei-kun's progress personally. His gaze fell on me, still dirty and exhausted from training. I tried to stand straighter. Lucifer-sama, I bowed respectfully. Please, just Surzex when we're among friends, he said, approaching me. May I? I nodded, understanding he wanted to examine my powers. His hand hovered near my chest, sensing my energy signature. Fascinating, he murmured. The integration is further along than reports suggested. Is that good or bad? I asked. Potentially both. He withdrew his hand. The 3 factions' leadership remains divided on how to address your situation. Some see tremendous opportunity, others catastrophic risk. And you? He smiled slightly. I see my sister's precious servant working diligently to control unprecedented power. That earns you the benefit of my doubt. Thank you, I said, genuinely relieved. However, his expression turned serious. Time grows short. Kokobil's movements have become more aggressive. Our intelligence suggests he plans to make a move soon, possibly within days. Azazel nodded grimly. My sources say the same. He's gathered at least 20 fallen angels and numerous exorcists. What exactly does he want? Rias asked. To reignite war between the factions, Surzex answered. And apparently he believes acquiring or eliminating the Dragon Emperor of Shadows could serve as catalyst. I blinked at the title. Is that what they're calling me? Among other things, Azazel smirked. Some less flattering. Surzex continued, I cannot commit large forces without appearing to favor devils over the other factions. However, I've arranged for reinforcements to be nearby if needed. We appreciate that, Onie-sama, Rias said. In the meantime, he turned back to me, I'd like to see this fusion technique Azazel has reported. No pressure. Just performing for one of the most powerful beings in existence. I took a deep breath and centered myself, feeling for the connection points between dragon and shadow energy. The process came more naturally now, like finding a familiar path in the dark. Dragon Shadow Fusion. The transformation rippled through my left arm. The modified boosted gear formed, shadows and crimson energy intertwining. This time, the shadows extended further, creating vein-like patterns up my shoulder. Impressive control, Surzex observed. The energies are stabilizing each other rather than competing. Boost, Drake's voice had a new resonance, echoing with shadow undertones. The boost felt different, deeper, with power flowing not just through my body but through the shadows connected to me. I raised my hand toward a reinforced target Azazel had constructed. Dragon Shadow Shot. The combined energy blast obliterated the target and continued another 20 meters before dissipating, leaving a smoking crater. Issei raised an eyebrow. The power output exceeds standard boosted gear at this development stage. The shadows amplify the dragon energy, Issei explained. And vice versa. They're creating a feedback loop that enhances both. I maintained the fusion for almost 6 minutes before it collapsed. Progress, but still far from combat-ready duration. You've done well in a short time, Issei said as I caught my breath. But preparation time has run out. Our intelligence indicates Kokobile will move against Kuo Academy tomorrow night. Tomorrow? Rias exclaimed. Why target the school? Sacred ground with historical significance to all three factions, Issei suggested. Perfect symbolic value for starting a new conflict. Or perfect for capturing me with minimal collateral damage, I added grimly. Issei nodded. Both possibilities concern me. I'll station Graphia nearby to erect a barrier if fighting erupts, but my direct intervention could escalate the situation politically. We understand, Rias said. My peerage will defend our territory. I'll stick around too, Issei added casually. Purely as an observer, of course. Issei gave him a knowing look. Of course. After finalizing security arrangements, Issei prepared to depart. But before activating his magic circle, he pulled me aside. Issei Hayadu, he said quietly, I've encountered many sacred gear users and many forms of magic, but your situation is unique. The path ahead will not be easy. I know, I replied. Remember who you are fighting for, he continued. Power exists to protect what matters, not for its own sake. I nodded firmly. I won't forget. He smiled and placed a hand on my shoulder. Then I have no doubt you'll overcome whatever challenges arise, including the ones within yourself. With that cryptic encouragement, he departed. We spent the evening preparing for Kokobile's attack. The school grounds were mapped into defensive zones, escape routes planned, and communication spells established. We should contact Sona's group, Rias suggested, referencing the student council president who led Koa's other devil peerage. Already done, Issei replied. They'll monitor the perimeter and maintain the public barriers. Your team can focus on the direct confrontation. I paced nervously, unable to shake a sense of foreboding. This all feels like a setup. Why announce his attack? Why give us time to prepare? Arrogance, perhaps, Kiba suggested. Or he wants an audience. Or he's counting on our preparation, Aquino said thoughtfully. What if we're arranging ourselves exactly as he hopes? That uncomfortable possibility hung in the air. I decided to try something new. Closing my eyes, I extended my shadow awareness, a technique I'd been developing to sense presences through shadow connections. It was limited and unreliable, but sometimes revealed things regular senses missed. The shadows stretched outward from where I stood, spreading across the school grounds like invisible tendrils. At first, nothing unusual registered, just the familiar signatures of my friends and the ambient magic of the protection circles. Then, at the edges of my awareness, something flickered. A presence, quickly concealed, watching from beyond the school gates. My eyes snapped open. We're being observed. Northeast corner, near the old oak tree. Issei vanished immediately, reappearing seconds later with a struggling fallen angel in his grip, a young-looking male with short black hair. Scout, Issei announced, tossing the captive onto the ground. One of Kokobile's newer recruits. The fallen angel glared up at us with defiant eyes. You won't stop him. Lord Kokobile's vision will, Issei casually flicked his wrist, binding the scout's mouth with magic. Spare us the fanatical monologue. How many are coming, and when? When the scout refused to cooperate, I stepped forward. The shadows around my feet shifted menacingly. I can extract the information, I offered, shadows beginning to extend toward the captive. Terror flashed in the fallen angel's eyes. Whatever rumors had spread about the Dragon Emperor of Shadows had clearly reached Kokobil's forces. That won't be necessary, Azazel said, though he looked intrigued by the prospect. I have other methods. After some magical persuasion from Azazel, the scout revealed Kokobil planned to attack at midnight with 25 fallen angels and over 40 stray exorcists. Their primary objective: capture or kill me and destroy the school as a declaration of renewed hostilities. Ambitious, Rias remarked after Azazel transported the scout to a secure location. But not unexpected. We should evacuate any students who might be on campus for evening activities, Asia suggested. Kaneko nodded. Kendo team practices until 9. Rias dispatched Kiba and Kaneko to subtly clear the campus while the rest of us finalized our defensive strategy. By 10 p.m., the school stood empty, awaiting the coming conflict. Get some rest, Rias advised as we gathered in the club room. 2-hour shifts. I'll take first watch. I couldn't sleep, even when my turn came. Instead, I sat on the roof with Azazel, watching the stars while midnight approached. Nervous? He asked, conjuring a glowing magic circle to check the time. 11:17 p.m. Wouldn't you be? I countered. He shrugged. I've lived long enough to treat every battle as just another dance with fate. Some you lead, some you follow, but the music always continues for someone. That's either profound or completely unhelpful, I muttered. He chuckled. The best advice is usually both. We fell silent for a moment before I asked the question that had been bothering me. Do you think I'm losing myself to these powers? Azazel considered this carefully. All power changes its wielder, Issei. The question isn't whether you'll change, but whether you'll direct that change or merely survive it. How do I direct it when I barely understand it? By remembering why you fight. He gestured toward the club room where my friends waited. Power with purpose remains a tool. Power without purpose becomes your identity. Before I could respond, a massive surge of energy rippled through the night. We both jumped to our feet as a purple light illuminated the sky above the school gates. Right on schedule, Azazel remarked. Showtime, kid. Kokobil arrived with theatrical flair. The fallen angel leader descended from the sky surrounded by a halo of light spears, his 10 black wings fully extended. Behind him, his forces gathered, fallen angels and exorcists armed for war. Our group assembled in the courtyard to meet them. Rias stood at our center, power of destruction crackling around her hands. Akino, already in her shrine maiden outfit, hovered slightly with lightning dancing between her fingers. Kiba had sword birth ready, blades protruding from the ground around him. Kaneko stood in a fighting stance, reinforcement magic strengthening her small frame. Asia remained slightly behind us, healing magic prepared. I activated boosted gear but held back from fusion. Better to keep some tricks in reserve. Rias Gremory, Kokobil called out, his voice carrying easily across the courtyard. How kind of you to gather your servants for my arrival. This is Gremory territory, Rias replied coldly. You are unwelcome here, Kokobil. The fallen angel leader laughed. Soon it will be a battleground that ignites a new war. After tonight, the fragile peace between factions will shatter. His gaze shifted to me, and his smile widened. The Red Dragon Emperor who now commands shadows. You've caused quite a stir, boy. I stepped forward. If it's me you want, let's fight elsewhere. Leave my friends and the school out of it. Noble, but naive, Kokobil replied. This isn't merely about you. You're just the spark for a much larger fire. Azazel moved to stand beside me. Hello, old friend. Still chasing war when peace offers so much more interesting potential. Kokobil's expression hardened. Governor Azazel. Your presence is unexpected but changes nothing. Your preference for humans and their trinkets has made you soft. And your obsession with past glories has made you predictable, Azazel countered. The tension thickened as the two fallen angel leaders faced each other. For a moment, I thought Kokabeel might reconsider his attack. Instead, he raised his hand. Kill them all except the dragon boy. He comes with us. Light spears materialized above his forces. With a downward gesture, he launched the attack. Barrier! Rias shouted. Aquino and Rias quickly erected a defensive shield that intercepted the initial barrage. The impact sent cracks spreading across the magical surface. It won't hold against continuous assault, Aquino warned. Azazel stepped forward. I'll handle Kokabeel. The rest of you deal with his forces. Boost. I activated my sacred gear's power. Boost. The exorcists charged forward as the fallen angels launched another volley of light spears. Our defensive line broke into planned engagement zones, Kiba taking the left flank, Kaneko the right, Aquino providing aerial support while Rias coordinated from the center. I faced the central charge, boosting twice more before engaging. The first exorcists reached me with light sword swinging. I dodged the initial strikes and countered with a dragon-enhanced punch that sent one flying. Shadows extended from beneath me, tripping two more attackers. I was getting better at using both powers separately but in quick succession. Dragon shot. The energy blast tore through the front line of exorcists, creating momentary space. Above, Aquino and the fallen angels exchanged lightning and light spears in a deadly aerial dance. Kiba had created a field of swords that slowed the left flank's advance while he darted between enemies with night-enhanced speed. Kaneko was holding her own on the right, her monstrous strength sending exorcists flying with each hit. For a moment, it seemed we might repel the attack. Then Kokabeel entered the fray directly. Enough warm-up, he declared, creating a massive light spear that dwarfed the others. Let's accelerate this performance. He hurled it not at us, but at the school building. The spear struck with devastating force, obliterating the east wing in an explosion that shook the entire campus. The barrier. Rias shouted in alarm. Holding, Aquino confirmed, but that was just the main building, not the grounds. Azazel launched himself at Kokabeel, light spear against light spear. The two fallen angel leaders clashed above us in a battle moving too fast for my eyes to follow. I had my own problems. The exorcists had regrouped and now surrounded me specifically. Their tactics changed, they weren't trying to kill me but to contain and wear me down. Boost. 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 For boosts now, and I unleashed a spinning kick that cleared space around me. But they kept coming, coordinated and determined. A light bullet grazed my shoulder, burning through devil flesh. I hissed in pain. Issei. Asia called out, starting toward me. Stay back. I shouted. The last thing I needed was Asia in the middle of this targeting operation. Too late. Several exorcists immediately diverted toward her, recognizing her healing abilities as a strategic target. Kiba spotted the danger and intercepted, but the maneuver left his flank exposed. A fallen angel dive-bombed him, light spear piercing his shoulder. Kiba! I shouted, trying to reach him. An exorcist tackled me from behind. I rolled, throwing him off, but three more piled on. They were trying to pin me down. Across the battlefield, Kaneko was similarly overwhelmed by numbers. Rias fired destruction magic in wide arcs, but couldn't target precisely without risking her servants. We were losing ground. Dragon Shadow Fusion. I didn't wait for the perfect moment anymore. Necessity drove me to force the energies together despite the strain. My left arm transformed, the modified boosted gear forming with shadows swirling around it. Get off me! I roared. Shadow spikes erupted from my body in all directions, impaling the nearest exorcists. They fell back, some wounded, others reassessing their approach. I used the moment to check our situation. Bad and getting worse. Kiba was bleeding heavily but still fighting. Kaneko had been forced into a defensive position behind debris. Akino was now facing 3 fallen angels simultaneously. Rias was unleashing increasingly powerful destruction magic but couldn't stem the tide of attackers. Above, Azazel and Kokobile fought evenly matched, neither gaining advantage. We needed something more. Something unexpected. The Shadow Soldiers, Ashbourne suggested. Your fallen enemies can turn the tide. He was right. The exorcists I'd defeated weren't just neutralized, they were potential resources. Rise! I commanded, extending my shadow-wrapped arm. Black mist coalesced around the fallen exorcists. Their bodies dissolved into shadow particles that flowed toward me, then reformed as shadow soldiers with glowing blue eyes. Defend the peerage. The shadow soldiers moved with uncanny coordination, engaging their former comrades. Though fewer in number, they fought with supernatural strength and could not be killed by conventional means. The sudden appearance of shadow warriors created confusion among Kokobile's forces. Some exorcists even broke ranks, fleeing from what they perceived as necromancy. What is this abomination? Kokobile shouted from above, momentarily distracted. Azazel took advantage, landing a solid hit that sent the fallen angel leader crashing into the sports field. I pressed the advantage, directing my growing shadow army while maintaining the fusion. Each fallen enemy added to my forces, creating a cascade effect as the battle continued. Issei, Rias called through our communication link, the shadow soldiers are working, but something's happening to you. I didn't understand until I caught my reflection in a broken window. The shadow veins had spread beyond my arm, crawling across my chest and neck. My left eye had changed color, glowing with the same blue light as my shadow soldiers. The transformation was progressing beyond my control. The Shadow Monarch emerges, Ashbourne said with satisfaction. Partner, be careful, Draig warned. You're approaching a threshold. I didn't have time to worry about it. Kokobile had recovered and now focused his attention directly on me. So the rumors are true, he said, rising from the crater his impact had created. The dragon whelp has become something far more interesting. He created a light spear larger than any before. I think I'll take you by force rather than negotiation. The spear flew toward me with incredible speed. I raised my transformed arm instinctively, shadows forming a shield. The impact sent me sliding backward, boots digging furrows in the ground. The shield held, barely, shadows absorbing and dispersing the light energy. Impressive, Kokobile acknowledged. But how many can you withstand? He created 3 more spears, each aimed at different members of our group. No! I shouted. Something broke loose inside me. The careful balance between dragon and shadow energy shattered as both powers surged in response to my desperation. Shadows exploded outward from my body, engulfing the entire courtyard in darkness. Within the darkness, I could see everything perfectly. My friends, frozen in surprise. The enemy forces, suddenly blind and disoriented. Kokobile, his expression changing from confidence to concern. What is this? He demanded, light spears flickering as they lost coherence in the absolute darkness. I moved without conscious thought, shadows carrying me across the battlefield faster than physical movement. I appeared before Kokobile, my transformed arm now encased in a gauntlet of writhing shadows with the red dragon scales visible beneath. You threatened my friends, I said, my voice resonating strangely within the darkness. That was a mistake. I struck before he could respond. The combined dragon and shadow power behind my punch sent Kokobile flying backward through the school's main building, collapsing it entirely. The darkness pulled back slightly, revealing the battlefield again. My friend stared at me in shock. Even Azazel looked surprised. The evolution accelerates, Ashbourne commented. I looked down at myself. The transformation had spread further, both arms now encased in the hybrid armor, shadows swirling around my body like a living cloak. Before I could process this development, Kokobeel erupted from the rubble, his expression now one of fury and pain. "Enough games," he roared, all 10 wings flaring with light. "I'll destroy this entire town." He began forming a massive magic circle above the school, one designed for wide-scale destruction. Azazel shot upward to intervene, but several fallen angels intercepted him, buying Kokobeel time. I knew I couldn't reach him physically in time. The magic circle was nearly complete. Boost! 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 The power surged through me, amplified by the shadow integration. I extended both hands toward Kokobeel, dragon and shadow energy swirling together in concentrated form. Dragon Shadow Destruction. The combined energy blast shot upward, a spiraling beam of crimson and black that tore through Kokobeel's magic circle and continued toward him. He attempted to dodge, but the beam tracked his movement, clipping his wings. He screamed as 3 of his wings disintegrated on contact. The energy wasn't just damaging his physical form, it was erasing the very essence of his power. Wounded and enraged, Kokobeel plummeted to earth. He landed heavily but immediately struggled to his feet, creating a light sword in each hand. "You'll pay for that, boy," he snarled, blood streaming from his wounded wing stumps. I didn't give him time to recover. The shadows carried me forward again, and I engaged him directly. His light sword slashed with expert precision, but my shadow armor absorbed or diverted the attacks. Every strike I landed seemed to drain something from him. The shadow extraction process was happening automatically now, pulling energy from Kokobeel with each contact. "You are becoming quite the harvester," Ashbourne noted with approval. Kokobeel sensed what was happening and disengaged, creating distance between us. "What are you doing to me?" he demanded, visibly weakened. "Taking what you offered," I replied. "You came for a demonstration of my power. Here it is." I extended my hand, and the shadows from all the fallen exorcists and angels surged toward me, merging with the darkness that surrounded my body. Their essence, their power, their very being, all flowing into the Shadow Monarch system. Kokobeel watched in horror as his forces were literally consumed before his eyes, transformed into shadow matter that strengthened me. "This ends now," I declared, the fusion power reaching new heights as I absorbed more energy. "I agree," a new voice interrupted. A brilliant white light cut through the battlefield, so intense it dispelled shadows and illuminated the entire campus. A figure descended from above, white armor gleaming in the night. "Valley," Azazel said, sounding unsurprised. The White Dragon Emperor landed between Kokobeel and me. His divine dividing wings pulsed with blue energy. "Albion sensed a disturbance in the Red Dragon's power," Valis said, his voice echoing slightly from within his helmet. "I came to investigate and found this." He turned slowly, taking in the shadow-wrapped form I'd become and the remnants of Kokobeel's forces being absorbed into my growing army. "Fascinating evolution, Hayadu Issei," he said. "Though I wonder if the dragon I'm destined to fight still exists within that shadow amalgamation." "I remain, White One," Draig responded, his voice carrying through the battlefield. "As do I, Albion," Ashbourne added unexpectedly. "The Shadow Monarch acknowledges the vanishing dragon." Vala's posture changed subtly. "Two conscious entities in one vessel. Unprecedented." "If you're done with introductions," Kokobeel snarled, "I have a war to start." Vala turned to him dismissively. "Your war is cancelled. Azazel asked me to collect you." Before Kokobeel could respond, Vala moved with blinding speed. In seconds, the fallen angel leader was subdued, his remaining wings bound by white energy. "A disappointing performance," Vala commented. "I expected more from a war veteran." "He was already weakened," Azazel pointed out, gesturing toward me. "Our shadow dragon friend here did most of the work." Vala turned back to me, head tilted curiously. "So he did." I felt the fusion power beginning to wane. The extended usage and massive energy expenditure were taking their toll. The shadow armor receded gradually, revealing more of my normal form beneath. Is it over? Rias asked, approaching cautiously with the others. For now, Azazel confirmed. Valley will take Kokabeel to Grigori for containment and interrogation. Valley hoisted the defeated Kokabeel over his shoulder effortlessly. We'll meet again soon, Hayadu Issei. I'm eager to test how these shadow powers affect our destined battle. With that, he activated his divine dividing and shot into the sky, Kokabeel in tow. As he disappeared, the last of my fusion energy faded. The shadow soldiers dissolved, returning to my shadow, and my transformed arms reverted to normal. Exhaustion hit me like a truck. I collapsed to my knees, gasping. Issei. Asia ran to my side, healing light already glowing in her hands. I'm okay, I managed, though every muscle screamed in protest. Just, really tired. Rias knelt beside me, her expression a mixture of concern and pride. You were incredible. Terrifying is the word I'd use, Aquino commented, though she smiled as she said it. Kiba approached, his wounds partially healed. That shadow army technique was something else. Yeah, Kaneko agreed quietly. Scary. I looked around at the devastated school grounds. Craters marred the courtyard. The main building lay in ruins. The gymnasium was partially collapsed. We're going to need a really good excuse for this, I muttered. Azazel laughed. Leave that to me. Magical restoration and memory manipulation are specialties of mine. He surveyed the battlefield thoughtfully. More importantly, you've just demonstrated power that will have every supernatural faction on high alert. The political fallout from tonight will be significant. Great, I sighed. More politics. The price of power, Azazel shrugged. But you've also gained important allies. Valley doesn't involve himself unless he's genuinely interested. Is that good or bad? Rias asked. Both, usually, Azazel replied. Asia helped me to my feet. Despite her healing, my body felt like one massive bruise. The fusion technique clearly carried physical costs I hadn't anticipated. We should return home and rest, Rias decided. Tomorrow will bring new challenges. As we prepared to depart, I looked back at the battlefield one last time. Shadow essence still lingered in the air, remnants of the army I'd commanded and then absorbed. You took a significant step tonight, successor, Ashbourne commented. The path to becoming a true Shadow Monarch has begun in earnest. Be cautious, partner, Drake added. Great power awakened hastily often carries hidden costs. Both entities had points, but right now, all I wanted was a shower and about 12 hours of sleep. The philosophical implications of my evolving powers could wait for morning. I dreamed of a vast battlefield strewn with corpses. Dragons and shadow beings clashed in a war that darkened the sky and shook the earth. At the center stood two figures, a massive red dragon and a being of pure shadow, locked in eternal combat. This is what was, Ashbourne's voice explained as the dream unfolded. The ancient conflict between dragons and shadows. The scene shifted, showing civilizations rising and falling as the war continued across millennia. Humans, devils, angels, all caught in the crossfire between primal forces. Why are you showing me this? I asked within the dream. To understand what you are becoming, you must know what came before, Ashbourne replied. The Red Dragon Emperor and the Shadow Monarch have never coexisted in one vessel. There is reason for that. The dream zoomed in on various Shadow Monarchs throughout history, figures of terrible power commanding vast armies of the dead. None lived happy lives. All stood alone amid the destruction they caused. Is this my fate? I asked, troubled. Fate is merely the path of least resistance, Ashbourne answered cryptically. You are forging something new, something neither dragon nor shadow but both and beyond. The dream shifted again, showing a possible future. Me, transformed into something neither human nor devil, commanding legions of shadow soldiers across a ruined landscape. I recoiled from the image. I don't want this. Then what do you want? Ashbourne challenged. Power always serves purpose. What is yours? The dream landscape responded to my emotions, changing to show the Occult Research Club, Rias, Asia, Aquino, Kiba, Kaneko, all smiling, safe. Them, I answered without hesitation. To protect them. To build a future with them in it. Even if they fear what you become. The images shifted to show my friends backing away from my shadow form, expressions of horror on their faces. They won't fear me, I insisted. Because I won't lose myself to this power. Ashbourne seemed to consider this an interesting hypothesis. We shall see if you have the strength to maintain it. The dream began to fade, but before it dissolved completely, a final image appeared, a white dragon and a shadow phoenix circling each other, neither able to gain advantage. The white one approaches with his own evolution, Ashbourne warned. Your rival will not remain static while you transform. I woke with a gasp, sitting bolt upright in bed. Sunlight streamed through my window. I'd slept through the morning. Finally awake, partner. Drea grumbled. How long was I out? I asked, rubbing my eyes. Nearly 14 hours. The shadow integration taxed your body severely. I flexed my fingers, relieved to find them normal again. No shadow veins, no transformation remnants. The dragon speaks truth, Ashbourne added. Such extensive manifestation requires conditioning. Your vessel nearly reached its limit yesterday. Vessel? You mean my body? Your mortal form, yes. It requires strengthening to fully channel both energies simultaneously. Great. More training needed. I swung my legs over the bed and stood carefully, testing my balance. Surprisingly, I felt okay, tired but not debilitated. A knock came at my door. Issei-kun. Are you awake? Rias called. Yeah, come in. She entered, carrying a tray with food and drink. You must be starving. My stomach growled in agreement. I hadn't eaten since before the battle. Thanks, I said as she set the tray on my desk. How is everyone? Recovering well. Asia's healing took care of the worst injuries. She sat on the edge of my bed. The school has been fully restored, thanks to Onie-sama's intervention. Classes resume tomorrow as if nothing happened. I nodded, taking a bite of the sandwich she'd brought. It tasted amazing after the energy expenditure of the previous night. And the political situation? I asked between bites. Her expression turned more serious. Complicated. Kokabiel's capture has prevented immediate conflict, but your power display has intensified interest from all factions. Define interest. 3 separate research requests from the Devil Council. A formal observation proposal from heaven. And multiple unofficial inquiries about whether you might be available for collaborative projects. I nearly choked on my sandwich. They want to study me? Or recruit me? Both, most likely, she replied. Azazel is fielding most requests for now, claiming priority due to his existing research. At least that buys us time, I muttered. Rias studied me with concern. How do you feel after yesterday? The transformation went further than ever before. I considered the question honestly. Different. Like the fusion is becoming more natural, less forced. I hesitated, then added, I had dreams. About the history between dragons and shadows. Her eyes widened with interest. What did you see? I described the ancient conflict Ashbourne had shown me, the succession of shadow monarchs, and the warnings about my potential future. Ashbourne clearly has his own agenda, Rias observed. Though what exactly it is remains unclear. My agenda is the successful evolution of my successor, Ashbourne stated, making himself audible to Rias. Nothing more, nothing less. Evolution into what? She challenged. That depends largely on him, Ashbourne replied. The Shadow Monarch system adapts to its wielder's nature and desires. That was news to me. So I'm influencing the power as much as it's influencing me? Precisely. Your prioritization of protection over dominance has already altered the typical manifestation pattern. That explained the defensive shadow formations that appeared instinctively when my friends were threatened. The power was responding to my underlying motivations. Is that why I can merge shadow and dragon energy when historically they've been opposed? I asked. Partially, Ashbourne admitted. Your unusual soul composition also contributes. The dragon's presence creates resistance that forces shadow adaptation. Rias looked thoughtful. So the conflict between powers actually drives innovation? An accurate assessment, Devil Princess. She ignored the title. Azazel suggested something similar. That opposing forces can create new possibilities when properly integrated. I finished my food, feeling strength returning with each bite. So what's next? More training? Yes, but differently focused, Rias said. Azazel believes we should concentrate on stabilizing the fusion rather than extending its duration. Quality over quantity. That made sense. The fusion had grown more powerful but increasingly unstable during the battle with Kokobile. There's something else, Rias continued, her expression growing serious. Aquino sensed unusual energy signatures at several points around town last night during cleanup. We believe we were being observed. Kokobile's remaining forces. She shook her head. Different energy signature. Older. Azazel is investigating, but. He thinks it might be connected to the Shadow Monarch system specifically. Possibly other entities associated with it. A chill ran down my spine. Other shadow beings, you mean? Possibly. Or those who've sought the power in the past. I remembered Surzek's mentioning that others might have pursued the Shadow Monarch system throughout history. If they still existed, my unprecedented success might have drawn their attention. It was inevitable, Ashbourne commented. The Shadow Realm has many denizens. Your emergence would not go unnoticed. Thanks for the warning, I muttered sarcastically. Rias squeezed my hand. We'll face whatever comes together, Issei. You're not alone in this. Her words reminded me of my dream response to Ashbourne. My purpose, my reason for wielding this power, to protect those I cared about, to build a future with them. I know, I said, returning the squeeze. And I won't forget it. 2 days later, life had almost returned to normal, or as normal as it could be for a devil with dual ancient power systems battling for dominance in his body. School resumed with no one the wiser about the devastating battle that had occurred on the grounds. Magic was convenient that way. I still struggled with random shadow manifestations when tired or emotionally charged, but was getting better at suppressing them quickly. During lunch break, I sat under a tree with Kiba, both of us eating quietly after a morning training session. You're improving quickly with the shadow control, he observed. I shrugged. Still feels like trying to herd cats sometimes. The shadows have their own. I don't know, intentions. Sentience. Maybe. Not full consciousness, but definitely preferences. Kiba nodded thoughtfully. Sacred gear users often report similar experiences. The power seems to have a will of its own sometimes. I guess. But this feels different. Like the shadows are extensions of me, but also, not entirely mine. Before Kiba could respond, we both tensed as a familiar presence approached. Vala Lucifer, dressed in casual clothes rather than his divine dividing armor, strolled across the schoolyard toward us. Students whispered as he passed, admiring his good looks and confident bearing. If they only knew the apocalyptic power concealed beneath that human disguise. Hayadu Issei, he greeted, stopping before us. I hoped we might talk. Kiba's hand drifted subtly toward where he could summon a sword. School grounds are neutral territory, he reminded Valley. I'm well aware, Valley replied smoothly. This is a social call, not a challenge. At least, not yet. I stood, brushing grass from my uniform. What do you want, Valley? To satisfy my curiosity. His eyes studied me intensely. You've changed since our first meeting. Evolved. I want to understand how. I crossed my arms. Why would I explain my powers to my destined rival? He smiled slightly. Because I might offer insights in return. Albion has been restless since sensing your shadow integration. That caught my attention. Restless how? Valley glanced around at the students nearby. Perhaps somewhere more private. I looked at Kiba, who nodded slightly. The old storage building. 5 minutes. Valley inclined his head and walked away. Once he was out of earshot, Kiba turned to me. Are you sure about this? He asked. Not really, I admitted. But if the White Dragon has information about what's happening to me, I need to hear it. I'll alert Bucho, Kiba said, pulling out his phone. Don't go alone. 5 minutes later, I entered the abandoned storage building behind the school. Valley waited inside, leaning casually against a dusty shelf. No backup? He asked, noting my solitary arrival. They're nearby, I replied. No point pretending Rias wouldn't have the area under surveillance after being alerted. Smart. He straightened. Now, to business. Show me the fusion. I hesitated. That's not something I do casually. It takes energy and has side effects. I'm well aware. I watched you absorb fallen angels and exorcists into your shadow. Rather impressive, if somewhat disturbing. His casual mention of what had been a traumatic power manifestation irritated me. It wasn't a performance for your entertainment. Vala's eyes gleamed with interest. Defensive about it, are we? Ashamed perhaps? Cautious, I corrected. I'm still learning to control it. All the more reason to practice, he countered. I'll even make it worth your while. How so? Albion has shared insights about the historical relationship between dragons and shadows. Information your dragon may not possess or be willing to share. He baits you, partner, Drake warned. Yet his offer may have value, Ashbourne countered. I considered my options. A brief, controlled demonstration might be worth the risk if it yielded useful information. Fine. A small demonstration only. I focused on the now familiar process of merging dragon and shadow energy. The transformation came more easily each time, shadow veins spreading across my left arm as the modified boosted gear formed. Dragon Shadow Fusion. The transformation rippled outward, contained to just my arm and shoulder this time. The red gauntlet formed with shadow veins pulsing through it, the jewel glowing with its emerald purple light. Valley observed with intense fascination. The energies aren't just coexisting, they're truly integrating. Interesting solution to an ancient problem, Albion's voice emerged from Valley, addressing me directly. What problem? I asked. Valley circled me slowly, examining the transformation from different angles. Dragons and shadows have been enemies since primordial times. Their energies naturally repel each other, a fundamental opposition built into reality itself. I know about the ancient war, I said. Ashbourne showed me. Did he show you why they fought? Valley asked. The true reason behind their endless conflict? I realized I didn't actually know. The dream had shown the battles but not explained the underlying cause. It is irrelevant to your development, Ashbourne said quickly. Valley smiled, hearing Ashbourne's deflection. The Shadow Monarch is reluctant to share, it seems. Perhaps because the truth complicates his agenda. What truth? I demanded, looking at my transformed arm. Dragons are beings of creation and manifestation, Valley explained. Their power brings things into existence, makes potential real. Shadows are beings of void and extraction, they unmake, absorb, return things to non-existence. Simplistic interpretation, Ashbourne scoffed. Fundamental opposition, Valley continued, ignoring the interruption. Creation versus entropy. Making versus unmaking. Two cosmic forces that cannot coexist without destroying each other. I processed this information. Yet here they are, merged in my arm. Exactly, Valley said, excitement breaking through his usually cool demeanor. You've achieved what should be impossible, a stable fusion of opposing cosmic principles. What does that mean for me? Valley's expression turned serious. It means you're becoming something unprecedented, neither dragon nor shadow but something new. A hybrid entity that defies cosmic law. The White One speaks partial truth, Drake admitted reluctantly. This fusion should not be possible. Yet it exists, Ashbourne added. Perhaps cosmic law is more flexible than previously believed. I maintained the fusion a moment longer, then released it, the transformation receding back into normal skin and bone. Your turn, I said to Valley. What insights did Albion share? Valley leaned against a shelf. The last time shadow and dragon energies interacted on a large scale was over 10,000 years ago. Their war nearly destroyed the physical plane. To prevent mutual annihilation, a pact was formed, dragons would rule the skies and material realm, while shadows claimed the void spaces and death realms. A territorial agreement, I summarized. With one additional clause, Valley continued. Neither power would attempt to merge with the other again. The results had been catastrophic. A chill ran down my spine. What happened to the last person who tried? Valley's eyes met mine. They became the catalyst for a cosmic war that nearly ended all existence. Then they transcended reality entirely, becoming neither alive nor dead, neither being nor non-being. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. Valley pushed off from the shelf. It was meant to be a warning. You're walking a path that broke reality once before. I absorbed this sobering information. So what's your interest in this? Just making sure I don't accidentally end the world. Valley laughed. Hardly. I'm interested because you've become a far more fascinating rival than anticipated. Our destined battle as dragon hosts has evolved into something with much higher stakes. I never asked for these powers, I pointed out. Few who change the world do, he replied. The question isn't how you got them, but what you'll do with them. It was a fair point, echoing what others had told me. Power's purpose mattered more than its origin. One more thing, Valley added, heading toward the door. Albion senses something you may not be aware of yet. The shadow absorption process isn't just adding soldiers to your army, it's changing your fundamental composition. Meaning? Meaning the more you absorb, the less human you become. He paused at the doorway. Just something to consider before your next harvesting session. With that parting shot, he left, leaving me alone with troubling new information. I leaned against the wall, mind racing. If Valley was right, every use of shadow extraction pushed me further from humanity. Yet that power had been crucial in defeating Kokobeel. The White One's warning contains truth but lacks context, Ashbourne finally said. All power changes its wielder. The question is whether you direct that change or are directed by it. You've been keeping things from me, I accused. I have shared what you were ready to receive, he countered. Some knowledge requires preparation. Like the fact that I might break reality or transcend existence. Remote possibilities, not certainties. Your dual nature creates unprecedented variables. I pushed off from the wall in frustration. No more secrets, Ashbourne. I need to know what I'm becoming if I'm going to control it. A moment of silence followed before Ashbourne responded. Very well. Return to the Occult Research Club. I will explain the true nature of the Shadow Monarch system, and why your dragon's soul makes you different from all previous successors. The entire peerage gathered in the club room, along with Azazel, who'd been summoned when Rias heard about my conversation with Valley. All eyes were on me as I relayed what I'd learned. A cosmic war between dragons and shadows? Azazel stroked his chin thoughtfully. There are ancient texts that reference such a conflict, though most historians dismissed them as metaphorical. Apparently not, I said grimly. The part about transcending reality concerns me most, Rias said. What exactly does that mean? It refers to the first hybrid. Ashbourne's voice filled the room. A being who successfully merged dragon and shadow essence briefly before the energies tore reality apart around them. Everyone tensed at Ashbourne's sudden participation in the conversation. You promised explanations, I reminded him. Start with what the Shadow Monarch system actually is. Very well. Ashbourne's presence seemed to strengthen, shadows darkening the corners of the room. The system you know as the Shadow Monarch originated at the dawn of existence, when light and darkness first separated. Azazel leaned forward with scholarly interest as Ashbourne continued. Shadows exist as the boundary between something and nothing, the edge where being meets non-being. Those who command shadows can influence this boundary, moving entities from one state to another. That's why shadow extraction affects the soul, Aquino realized. It's manipulating the boundary between life and death. Precisely. The Shadow Monarch doesn't merely control darkness, they govern the transition between states of existence. Death is simply the most common transition they manipulate. The implications were staggering. No wonder supernatural factions feared this power. And dragons? I asked. What's their cosmic role? Dragons embody manifestation and persistence. They bring potential into reality and maintain it through force of will. Where shadows represent transition, dragons represent permanence. Fundamentally opposed, Rias murmured. Yet both necessary for reality's function, Ashbourne continued. Without shadows, nothing would ever end or change. Without dragons, nothing would fully manifest or endure. Azazel nodded slowly. Creation and entropy in perfect balance. But when one tried to absorb the other, reality nearly unraveled. The first hybrid became a wound in existence, neither fully real nor unreal, capable of unmaking reality itself. What happened to them? Asia asked quietly. They were contained. Sealed beyond reality by the combined efforts of both shadow and dragon forces. The cosmic pact followed, separating the forces permanently. Until now, I said, looking at my left arm where dragon and shadow energies coexisted. Until you, Ashbourne confirmed. Though your situation differs crucially from the first hybrid. How so? Rias asked. Issei began as a human soul, then became a devil, then received dragon power, and finally shadow essence. This layered development created natural boundaries between the energies, compartmentalization that the first hybrid lacked. I considered this. So my weird soul composition actually helps prevent cosmic catastrophe? That's good, I guess. What about the absorption process? Kiba asked. Valley claimed it's changing Issei's fundamental nature. Another half-truth. The shadow extraction doesn't replace your essence, it adds to it. You remain yourself, but with expanding capabilities and awareness. Expanding how? I pressed. Ashbourne seemed to hesitate before answering. Each absorption connects you more deeply to the shadow realm. Eventually, you will perceive both realms simultaneously, the material world and the transition state between existence and non-existence. That sounds intense, I managed. Will Issei-kun still be himself? Asia asked, the worry clear in her voice. His core identity remains intact, Ashbourne assured her. But his perception and capabilities will transcend normal limitations. Azazel had been unusually quiet, but now he spoke up. There's something you're still not telling us, Ashbourne. What's your stake in all this? Why choose Issei specifically? The room fell silent, all eyes turning to the shadows where Ashbourne's presence seemed concentrated. Perceptive, fallen one, Ashbourne finally replied. I chose Issei because he represented a unique opportunity, a red dragon emperor near death, his soul at the boundary where shadow power operates most effectively. Opportunity for what? Rias demanded. To create what neither shadows nor dragons could achieve alone, a balanced entity capable of mediating between cosmic forces. The Dragon Emperor of Shadows represents potential harmony where only conflict existed before. I blinked in surprise. Wait, you're trying to broker peace between primordial forces? In a sense. The ancient conflict solved nothing. Separation merely delayed inevitable confrontation. A hybrid entity demonstrating successful integration offers a new possibility. It was a lot to process. According to Ashbourne, I wasn't just developing unique powers, I was potentially reshaping the relationship between fundamental cosmic forces. No pressure or anything, I muttered. Rias placed a hand on my shoulder. This doesn't change our immediate priorities. You still need to master these powers, whatever their cosmic implications. She was right. Philosophical questions about cosmic balance wouldn't help me control shadow manifestations or maintain dragon-shadow fusion. So what's our next step? I asked. Continue training, Azazel suggested. But with better awareness of what we're working toward, stable integration rather than maximum power output. Kiba nodded. And we should prepare for potential interest from beings connected to the shadow realm. If Issei's development is as significant as Ashbourne suggests, others will take notice. Already have, Kaneko said quietly. Strange auras at the school perimeter. Watching. Waiting. That was unsettling. How long have you sensed them? 3 days, she replied. Since the Kokobile fight. Rias frowned. Why didn't you mention this sooner? Kaneko shrugged slightly. Didn't feel threatening. Just, curious. Nevertheless, we should investigate, Rias decided. Aquino, can you prepare detection circles around the academy? Aquino nodded. I'll start tonight. As the meeting continued with security planning, my mind wandered to the implications of what I'd learned. The Shadow Monarch system wasn't just ancient magic, it was a primordial cosmic force. The boosted gear wasn't just a powerful sacred gear, it was the embodiment of draconic manifestation. And somehow, improbably, both existed within me, gradually integrating despite cosmic law saying they shouldn't. You begin to understand, Ashbourne commented privately. Your existence defies conventional limitations. That's not necessarily comforting, I thought back. Comfort is irrelevant to evolution, he replied. But if it helps, know that you remain in control of your development. Your choices shape what you become. I hoped he was right. Because if Valley and Ashbourne were correct about the stakes involved, those choices carried weight beyond anything I'd imagined. That night, I couldn't sleep. The revelations about cosmic forces and hybrid entities kept my mind spinning with questions and concerns. Around 2 a.m., I gave up and headed to the kitchen for a drink. To my surprise, I found Azazel sitting at the table, nursing what looked like whiskey. Troubled sleep, he asked as I entered. I nodded, grabbing a soda from the refrigerator. Too much to process. Understandable. It's not every day you learn you're a walking cosmic anomaly. I sat across from him. You've been uncharacteristically quiet about all this. Usually you'd be running experiments already. Azazel swirled his drink thoughtfully. Some mysteries deserve respect before investigation. The Shadow Realm is one of them. You know more than you've shared, I guessed. He smiled slightly. I'm very old, Issei. I've encountered shadows before, though never the Monarch system specifically. And? And they are not to be trifled with. His expression turned serious. The shadow extraction process especially. It doesn't just take power, it takes essence, identity, memory. I felt cold despite the warm kitchen. You're saying I'm stealing people's souls? Not quite. You're absorbing aspects of them, their strength, skills, knowledge. Their core essence returns to the natural cycle. But the process irrevocably changes both the absorbed and the absorber. I thought of the shadow soldiers I'd created from fallen enemies. They retained combat skills and basic recognition, but lacked personality or independent will. Is it wrong? I asked quietly. Ethically, I mean. Azazel considered the question carefully. That depends on your perspective. Is death itself wrong? Shadows represent natural transition from one state to another. You're modifying that transition, not creating it. That feels like dodging the question. He nodded, acknowledging the point. The ethical question may be less about the absorption itself and more about consent and purpose. Why are you taking their essence? What will you use it for? To protect my friends, I answered without hesitation. To fight threats they can't handle alone. A noble purpose, Azazel said. But power has a way of suggesting new applications once mastered. The question is whether your purpose will evolve as your power does. It was a sobering thought. Would greater power change what I considered worth fighting for? I won't lose sight of what matters, I insisted. I believe you mean that, Azazel replied. But history is littered with well-intentioned beings whose powers gradually altered their perspective. He finished his drink and stood. Just something to consider as you develop. Now get some rest, tomorrow's training will be especially challenging. After he left, I remained at the table, turning his words over in my mind. The ethical dimensions of shadow extraction hadn't fully occurred to me before. I'd been too focused on survival and control. The fallen one raises valid considerations, Ashbourne commented unexpectedly. Though his perspective is limited by his nature. What's your perspective? I asked aloud, alone in the kitchen. Is absorbing others wrong? All existence absorbs and is absorbed, he replied philosophically. Stars consume hydrogen to create heavier elements. Plants absorb sunlight to grow. Life feeds on life throughout nature. The shadow extraction merely makes this universal process more direct and conscious. That doesn't actually answer my question. The true answer depends on your values, successor. If you believe conscious existence superior to all other considerations, then yes, absorption may seem ethically problematic. If you recognize existence as constantly transitioning between states, with consciousness as merely one temporary configuration, then absorption becomes morally neutral, a natural process you're directing rather than creating. I rubbed my temples. Cosmic philosophy at 2 a.m. was not helping my insomnia. I just want to use these powers without becoming something my friends would fear, I said finally. Then that desire itself will shape how the powers manifest, Ashbourne replied. The Shadow Monarch becomes what they believe themselves to be. That was either deeply reassuring or profoundly unsettling. Maybe both. I finally returned to bed, though sleep remained elusive. When morning came, I was still contemplating Azazel's warning and Ashbourne's philosophy. Training took on new dimensions following our increased understanding of the shadow and dragon energies. Instead of treating them as separate systems to be alternated, we focused on true integration. The key, Azazel explained during morning practice, is not forcing them together, but finding where they naturally overlap. I stood in the center of a magic circle he'd created to monitor energy flows. And where is that? Think of dragon energy as external projection and shadow energy as internal absorption. They meet at the boundary between self and other. That's not very specific, I muttered. Try this, he suggested. Instead of boosting outward or absorbing inward, create circulation. Dragon energy flows out, shadow energy pulls in, creating a continuous cycle. It was worth attempting. I activated both powers simultaneously, but instead of directing them at external targets, I tried creating the circulation Azazel described. Boost, I said quietly. Boost. The dragon energy surged, but instead of projecting it outward as usual, I directed it in a circular pattern. As it began to dissipate at the edges, I engaged shadow energy to capture and pull it back inward. The sensation was strange but not unpleasant, like creating an energy circuit with my body at the center. Dragon power flowing outward, shadow power drawing it back, each feeding into the other. Dragon shadow circulation, I named it instinctively. The transformation began differently this time. Instead of shadow veins spreading across my skin, a balanced pattern of red and black energy formed around me, a visible aura that pulsed with both energies in perfect rhythm. Fascinating, Azazel murmured, observing the energy readings. True integration at the fundamental level. I felt different too. Instead of the strain of forcing opposed energies together, this felt natural and sustainable. Power built gradually but continuously, each cycle slightly stronger than the last. How do you feel? Azazel asked. Balanced, I replied. Like I've found equilibrium between pushing and pulling. Can you maintain it while moving? Fighting? I tried a few experimental movements, stepping, punching, jumping. The energy circulation maintained stability, adapting to my movements rather than requiring constant attention. I think so, I said. It feels more natural than the forced fusion. Excellent. Let's test it against an actual opponent. Azazel gestured, and a magic circle appeared beside him. I took the liberty of arranging a sparring partner. Kiba stepped through, sword already drawn. Ready when you are, Issei-kun. We squared off in the training field. Kiba's sword gleamed in the morning light, his night speed making him an ideal test for my new technique. Don't hold back, I told him. I need to know if this works under pressure. He nodded and vanished, night speed at full force. I barely tracked his movement before he appeared on my left, sword slashing toward my ribs. In previous something went wrong with this response, please try again. Bring the next chapter of this book. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.